Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you an analysis of 6 sentences that I found in the book The Scarlet Letter, a novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne published in 1850. The objective of this video is that you can understand the different elements that we can find on a subordinate clause. But before we start, you should know some basic concepts. What is a complex sentence? A complex sentence contains one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. Both clauses can be joined by a subordinate conjunction or a relative pronoun. A subordinate clause or dependent clause doesn't express a complete thought and cannot stand alone in a sentence by itself. The subordinate clauses have 3 different types: noun clause, adverb clause, and adjective clause. Now, knowing this basic concept, let's start with noun clause. A noun clause answers the questions who or what. As you can see here, we can classify this clause by its type and function. There are 3 different types according to its connector: that clause, WH word clause, if whether clause. It also has 5 different functions. Can be a subject, object, object of a preposition, subject complement, and adjective complement. The first sentence that we are going to analyze says, I know not whether these ancestors might bethought themselves to repent and ask pardon of heaven for their cruelties, or whether they are now groaning under the heavy consequences of them in another state of being. First, we're going to identify the main verb, that in this case is now. Then we should ask ourselves, what do I know now? Or know not, according to the text. As you can see, we have 2 different subordinate clauses. Both are if-whether clauses and they function as an object of the transitive verb now. It is important to remember that the object should be right after the verb, as it is placed in here. The second sentence says, remembering their own former habits, they used to say that the surveyor was walking the quarter deck. In this example, the main verb is to say. So we have to ask, what did they used to say? As you can see, this is a that clause, and its function as an object of the transitive verb say. Now we are going to analyze 2 clauses, 2 adjective clauses. An adjective clause describes or gives information about a noun. It is placed after the noun. The independent and the dependent clause are joined by a relative pronoun. It answers the questions which and what kind of. Adjective clauses can be restrictive or non-restrictive if the information is required or not to identify the noun being modified. The first sentence says, the sentiment is probably assignable to the deep and aged roots which my family has struck into the soil. So, how can we identify the adjective clause? First, we look for the relative pronoun and we need to ask, which roots is the text referring to? This clause is restrictive because it is necessary to identify the noun. So this is the subordinate clause. The second example says, the new inhabitant who came himself from a foreign land or whose father or grandfather came has little claim to be called a Selemite. In the second example, we have two adjective clauses. The relative use in the first one is who, so we ask, who is the new inhabitant? The second one is whose, and we ask, whose is the new inhabitant? Both are non-restrictive clauses because they are non-essential information. You should know that these types of clauses should be placed between commas or dashes. Adverb clauses. So the adverb clauses answer different questions such as when, where, why, with that goal, under what conditions. And in this type of clauses, we have the first sentence that says, the whereabouts of the oldest inhabitant was at once settled when I looked at them. The subordinator of this clause is when, and the question is when was the whereabouts of the oldest inhabitant at once settled? Here we have the second example that says, before Roger Shillingworth could answer, they heard the clear, wild laughter of a young child's voice proceeding from the adjacent burial ground. The subordinator in this last example is before, and the question is, when did they hear the clear, wild laughter of a young child's voice proceeding from the adjacent burial ground? I hope that you could understand the elements that I explained. Thank you for listening.